Welcome back to my channel, and today I'll be reading an article from South China Morning Post. The article titled Asian Hip Hop Paying Homage to the Genre or Cultural Appropriation Driven by Racism or Ignorance. The article is also written by Crystal Tai. I hope I pronounced that right. In the South China Morning Post, an article titled Asian Hip Hop A Homage to the Genre or Cultural Appropriation Driven by Racism and Ignorance. Well, in this article, it goes in depth on how Asians are using hip hop as a cultural identity and how they don't even understand or know what they're doing, and they think it's some kind of nuance. And really, hip hop can really be traced back to West African culture. It's quite bizarre to see this, given that widespread popularity and increased prominence of hip hop and African American culture in Asia. Over the past decade, the emergence of hip-hop culture in East Asia has led to the rise of new groups of entertainers and influencers. But while hip-hop and African-American culture influence lifestyle trends in East Asia, there is little actual understanding of identity and culture. In many cases, celebrities and influencers are criticized for borrowing from another culture without acknowledging the history and the heritage behind them. A Korean designer was asked about his collection worn by all Korean models. My collection was based on the spirit of Rastafarian culture, he said. I was influenced by Africans' whole revolt against slavery. What culture would that be, I asked. All black people in the world had retorted, unhappy that his concept was being questioned. Well, given that his concept was about the revolt against slavery, was should have been questioned anyway. Because how you gonna make a design, collection around revolting against slavery, which makes no sense. You could do anything. You could do some kind of design against Korean revolts and say, "Oh, well, I don't really think Koreans have a revolt since he didn't choose one." And why use that anyway? That's somebody pain and suffering. You wouldn't make a design collection around the genocide of the Jews or Japanese invading China or anything of the Native American Holocaust, the Trail of Tears. You make a design collection around the Trail of Tears? I don't think so. Another thing I don't get, why are black people unhappy? You shouldn't be happy about this guy using our ancestors' pain and suffering, what's also known as the blues, for a design choice. That's sick and twisted. Who does that? And here's something else the article goes on to state. Unfortunately, embodiments of hip-hop and percentages of African-American culture are more reflective of stereotype and diversity in countries like China, South Korea, and Japan, where widespread discriminated on and negative as stereotypes about people with dark skin continue to exist. There is a lack of understanding of diversity and complexity of black and African cultures, says Emily Child. What I see is most people find it convenient to crystallize the African and the African American diaspora and their cultures into merely a phenomenon, says Child. What most people do is excavate a musical genre or a fashion trend from very diverse people of distinct cultures. It's an act that collapses the complexity of the people, their history, and their cultures. While some description and understanding of African and African American culture remains limited, some critics hope things can change with education and raising awareness. Emulating their music heroes. Asians are just doing blackface, which is called black lifestyle in Japan, where Asians go around portraying stereotypes of African Americans. First of all, there's no such thing as Asian hip hop. Is there such thing as African Kung Fu or Gun Fu? Or African American Kung Fu, Gun Fu? Well, no, there's no such thing as Asian hip hop. It's just blatant racism and cultural appropriation all roll up into one. And don't try to say, well, Wu-Tang Clan did. Well, nobody took Wu-Tang Clan serious. If anything, they crippled hip-hop by bringing Chinese culture into hip-hop when hip-hop should have been just all about African culture, West African culture, matter of fact, where our ancestors came from. A lot of earlier rappers was doing that. Tupac did, Q-Tip, a tribe called Quest did. There's a lot of earlier rappers that put African culture into hip-hop. Wu-Tang was the only oddball that wanted to do, Asian culture, Chinese culture for some reason. And don't get it twisted, Asians actually love the fact they got to be portrayed in hip-hop. Almost any image of them being a black culture, they gravitate towards it and they love it and they try to market heavy off of it.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? David Fung here.
Andrew Fung here.
And together, we're the Fung Brothers. We love hip-hop.
We love rap. But something we've noticed is that rappers don't really talk about Asian things or Asian people very often.
So when a rapper does say something about Asian people or Asian things, it's a really big deal.
So we did you the favor of ranking the top 11 best rap lyrics from rappers that are not Asian and actually don't always know a lot about Asian things but reference Asian things like this.
Another big question is, why are they trying to pay homage to hip-hop anyway? It's a culture, not a person. It's a culture that combines West African culture, West Central African culture with what African Americans went through, and combines the one gives back to our African roots. So I don't understand why Asians are trying to pay homage to that. That makes no sense. They don't even respect it. It'd been alright to just respect it, but they don't respect it. Also, African Americans did not bring hip hop to Asia. White-owned record companies did that. They brought hip hop to Asia. Even if African Americans did bring hip hop to Asia, then why don't Asians show the same respect as African Americans do to Asian culture? Unlike Asians who don't respect hip hop, African Americans actually do respect other people's culture. You might have some few oddballs who don't respect it or try not to, but a lot of Africans and African Americans, they all respect other people's cultures. Also, Asians do have a lack of sensitivity towards other cultures. I mean, you ever seen China Uncensored? If you ever watched it, they show videos of how the Chinese government had to address Chinese tourists on how to respect other cultures outside China. They don't even do it. You got them going around writing on the ancient Egyptian tombs, hieroglyphics that can't be replaced. And don't try to blame Maoism for their lack of sensitivity towards other people's culture, because they have no problem being inside China and respecting Chinese culture. Well, Mao didn't destroy and replace with some false Chinese culture. That's not a reason. That is just a poor excuse of why they don't respect other people's culture. You want other people to respect your culture, then you also should respect other people's cultures as well. If you don't believe that Koreans sabotaged African American beauty supply stores and took it over, watch a documentary called BOPSA. Black Owned Beauty Supply Association. BOBSA. I'll put the link in the description for you to watch the video, and they'll tell you how the Koreans really took over the black hair care industry and why there's no more black hair care industry store owned by black people in America.
Took them as being a friend, and that they would not come in and try and take over the whole industry, but that's what they have done. They got in, now they control it, and they are really boasting about it, and they are talking about it, and then they are laughing at us all the way to the bank.
Hip-hop culture is traditionally rooted in the tradition of the griot, the master drummer, African dance and rhythm, and African American culture as well. And the only thing we're doing is raising our awareness about our culture being taken away from us, being whitewashed, taken over by Asians and white and non-blacks. When it comes to Asian culture, it's okay for them to get upset about their culture, their heritage. And so things with Latinos, when it comes to African Americans, we're not allowed to get upset. That don't sound like equality to me. That's a one-sided argument. All the themes of hip-hop music are themes of African American experience. Rap itself is a genre of African American literature. So is the blues, so is gospel music, jazz poetry, which all have African American experience themes into it, racism, a sense of home, freedom. There's a lot of black love, black nationalism, 5%ers, 5%. They're talking about the black man's God, the black woman's earth. You take both of them to make a black child. There's a lot that went into it. It sounds more like Yale Peril, aka Maoism, that held out African American and African culture.
We have to look at saving our community as well as saving this industry. We are a nation within this nation, and we're just giving everything away. And we cannot do that any longer. We have to stand up and fight. We are beautiful black people. If we have to wear our hair short, so be it. Let's wear it short, but let's get this under control where we control the industry and not let someone else come in and then set up and take all our revenue out of the community.